Welcome, 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 everybody. We are doing our second installation of credit and real estate today. My name is Kevin Lewis with Premisien. This is my good friend, Abby. She is from Genuine Property Solutions. Real estate, we are talking credit, we are talking real estate. Today, we're talking credit utilization. We're talking about why credit utilization is important, how you manage it, how it impacts your credit, and most of all, how you prepare if there are some challenges with it. And Abby, we're talking.
We'll talk about why would you need a real estate agent? Is it possible just for you to buy and sell a home on or what is the value of having some professional decision with this place?
All right, so we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to ask Abby's help with the slides on that laptop, if you don't mind. So today we're talking credit utilization. This is, like we said, the second installation of our program. We do the program the second Friday of every month in the library, Philadelphia, located here at 201 South 40th Street. I always mess that up, right? 2000. I always want to put a 2000 in there. It's my money mentality. All right. So today, last session, we talked about payment history as far as credit is concerned. We talked about payment history. On the real estate side, we talked about pre-qualification versus pre-approval. Today, we're talking credit utilization, which is the second most impactful component of the FICO scoring model or the credit scoring model. So credit utilization, very simple. Credit utilization is the amount of credit you use compared to your credit limits. Right? Simple explanation, simple example is if you have a credit card that has a limit of $1,000 and you're using $750 of that $1,000, then your credit utilization is 75%. Okay, so let's talk about what impact credit utilization has on your credit score or your credit profile. Have you give me a shot? All right, so we talked last time about the factors that affect your credit score. Let me move this over just a little bit so crowd can see that. So we talked last time about the factors that impact your credit score. There's payment history, there's credit utilization, there's credit age, inquiries, and credit mix. Today we're talking about credit utilization, and credit utilization is 30% of your credit score. So it's pretty big impact. If you mess up your payment history, which is the most impactful component of your credit score, then you're going to take a huge hit. So if you have a missed payment or a late payment, your score could drop 30, 40, 50, sometimes 60 points. Credit utilization, if you go above a certain number, we're going to talk about that momentarily. You go above a certain number, you can also lose 30, 40, 50, 60 points, depending on how far above this number you go. So let's talk about what it should be. Now, I'm going to talk industry standards. I'm going to talk best practices. And then I'm going to talk about something that many people don't know about. Industry standard, 30%. So if you talk to most people in the industry, they will tell you that your credit utilization should be no more than 30%. Again, going back to the example of your credit card, if you have a $1,000 limit on the credit card, they're saying that you should use no more than $300 of that $1,000 limit. Best practice is 25%. The reason we say best practice is because 30% is right at the threshold, right? And here's the deal. If you got that $1,000 credit limit and you go out and you spend $300, you're fine, but as soon as you spend $305, your credit score is going to go down. If you spend $299, credit score will be fine. You spend $305, your credit score is going to go down. Not a lot, a little, not a lot, but a little, not a lot, not a little. Okay? So best practice is 25%. That way you got that cushion. If you decide to go use $250 and then you need to put another $40 for gas. Sorry, just putting $40 for gas, you're driving a very small car, you're not going very. But $40 for gas, you're still at that 290 mark, you're still not losing any points. 3.9% though is what gets the best impact in your credit scores. If you want to have the best credit, as far as credit utilization is concerned, you use no more than 3.9% of your credit. Now, here's the deal. We're saying 3.9%. Do the math, and I'm gonna do the math pretty quickly. If you take $1,000 limit and you're only using 3.9%, you drop it. So 2x minus 6 carry 4 is $39. $39. So we're saying to get the most impact or have the highest score as far as credit utilization is concerned, you should use no more than 3.9% of your credit. And you should keep a running balance of 3.9%. That's another thing that most people don't talk about. So when I say 3.9% running balance, you should not go lower than 3.9% either. Don't go above, don't go below. Now, Abby, your question to me is, Kevin, how in the world, back it up for me a second, how in the world, if I have $1,000 limit, are you telling me I can never use more than 300 of it? It's best to never use more than 250 of it. And it's really going to get the most impact if I only use $39. We're going to talk about how to use your credit utilization so that you can get more use out of that credit than these limits that we're setting. So for right now, just keep these numbers in mind. 25%, that's up to 3.9. All right, key components that you need to know as far as credit utilization are concerned. Which is why the first thing you want to know about any credit that you have is the credit limit, particularly credit cards. Okay? When we talk about credit utilization, more often than not, we're talking about credit cards. So the first thing you need to know is the credit limit on those credit cards. Right?
Utilization.
How you doing today? All right. The second thing that you should know about credit utilization is the interest rate on that credit. Again, credit cards are the best example of credit utilization. There are some other things that credit cards are the best example. So you want to know the credit limit on that card, you want to know the interest rate. And you want to know if that interest rate is compounded daily, monthly, or annually, because that's going to make a difference. If they compound it daily, that is where you're going to get the most interest off of a credit. So check to see if it's compounded daily, monthly, or annually. And you can ask those questions when you get that credit card. Many of the credit cards will tell you in the application. Okay? The third thing that you want to know about that credit card is the due date. The due date for payment. And the due date, knowing the due date is going to help you avoid any late charge. This is where credit utilization gets you jammed. And this is why we say 25% is best practice, because if you have a balance of, let's say you have a credit limit of $1,000, you have an outstanding balance of $290, and you pay it late, and they issue you a $10 late fee. Well, now you've gone up to that 30% mark, and you're getting close to going over. So know the due date so that you don't get late charges. Typically, credit cards have a due date, and then they have a grace period of about five to 7 days. So just know the due date. But this right here is a little known component. Reporting date. That component right there is where we get to use credit. The reporting date, different from the due date. The reporting date or statement date is the date that the creditor is going to report your balance to the credit bureaus. Okay? And oftentimes it's not the same as the due date. For example, your due date may be on the 5th of the month. The reporting date may be on the 25th of the month. So you technically have, even though your bill is due on the 5th, you technically have until the 25th to pay your balances down. So the question you guys asked, you didn't ask it, but if you were going to ask a question, the question you asked is, well, Kevin, if I got $1,000 limit and you're telling me that I can't use more than 250 of it and I really can't use more than $39 of it, how do I really use my credit? And the answer is knowing the reporting date. You can use all of it, all $1,000 of it, but make sure you pay the balance down to at least 25%. I prefer you pay it down to 3.9% and pay that before the reporting date. As long as you do that, then you're not going to get hit with a balance that is above those best practices or maximum out. All right? Know the reporting date. Now, these three things, the credit limit, interest rate, and the due date, are pretty overt. You can look at your statement and they'll tell you that. The reporting date is rarely ever put into an agreement with the credit card company. But if you call them, they will tell you what that reporting date is. So know that. And what I do is, when I tell my clients to do, what I do is I keep a spreadsheet of all of my credit cards and I put all 4 of these things next to each one of those credit cards. So I know I can use that balance and then I can pay it down by that reporting date. Now, here's the deal. Here's the deal. If you use that $1,000 and you don't pay it until the reporting date or close to the reporting date, remember, you can still get late charges. So it's best to pay it before the due date, but if you can't pay it by the due date, just know you're gonna get assessed late charges, but make sure you pay it by the reporting date. All right. Now, how best to manage your credit utilization? Again, don't use more than 25%. Again, reporting date, pay down. Spread your payments over several cards. What I mean by that is if you have 4 cards, again, these are, in this example, we are assuming that all of these cards are either Visa card, MasterCard, or American Express. But let's say you have 4 American Express cards. Now, let's say you have 4 Visa cards. Let's do it that way. Let's say you have 4 Visa cards and you're getting ready to go on vacation, and that vacation is going to cost you $1,000. And I use $1,000 because it's easy to calculate, right? So let's say you're going on vacation, you're going to use $1,000 over the course of that vacation, right? That's a cheap vacation, staycation. It's more like a staycation, right? You're going to use $1,000 for that staycation, right? Instead of putting all $1,000 on one Visa card, let's say each one of those cards has $1,000 limit, right? Instead of putting all of the vacation on one card, put that vacation on 4 different cards. 250, 250, 250, and 250. That way, you never go above the 25% and you're good no matter what happens. Because you go on that staycation, if you put it on one card, you go on that staycation and you use all 1,000, and for whatever reason, you don't get that money paid back before the reporting date of that card, your credit score is going to go down. But if you spread it across 4 cards, doesn't matter whether you pay it or not, your credit score is not going to go down. Okay? Talk about this. Pay down the balances before the reporting date. Here's another way that you can manipulate and use credit. If you become an authorized user on someone else's credit card, in addition to your own credit cards, then you can get the advantage of having a lower utilization. For example, let's say you have a rich aunt who has an Amex card that has a $25,000 limit on it. She rarely ever uses the card, so it only has a $100 outstanding balance. If you ask her nicely, and maybe you bring us some snacks. I got an aunt who loves snacks, so I'll bring her some she loves blueberry muffins from Sam's Club. So I always bring her some blueberry muffins. She will agree. I don't need it now, but in the past, I've said to her, Auntie, I'll bring you some blueberry muffins if you will put me on your Amex card. I think it's an equal trade. She says, I'm getting older, but you be the judge. The point is, if she puts you as an authorized user on her card, then you get the advantage or the benefit of her having a very low credit utilization, and it adds $10,000 into your credit, which means that your credit utilization now goes down, your score goes up. Make sure, and I should have put this in addition to, make sure they keep low balances and make sure they always pay that credit card on time or early. Because if they pay late, it's a late charge on your credit as well. Impacts your name. So keep that in mind. And then of course, keep a running balance of no more than 3.9%. Now, I'm gonna drill this point home. Running balance. Don't use more than, but don't use less than. Most people I know, particularly in the African-American community, applaud themselves when they pay off their credit cards. There's a couple of problems with that. The first problem is the credit card companies want to see that you can manage credit wisely. So they want to see that you are using your credit. If they don't see that you're using your credit, then sometimes they will reduce your limits. You don't have to ask for permission, they just do it. Sometimes they will close your account. I'm sure some of you guys have seen that happen. So make sure you're carrying balances, meaning you are making sure you pay the minimum balance, but keep 3.9% on there at all times. That way you don't run the risk of losing your card, having a closed account, or them reducing credit limits, and that will keep you in contention when your score goes up, and it'll keep you in contention for new credit, right? Keep that in mind. Now, let's say you have run into a situation where you had to live on credit. As happened to me on several occasions. Cash flow was tight, had to go to credit. Everybody's done it, right? And so let's say I'm going to give you an example of how to fix any challenges that you have. Now, there are two methods of debt reduction that are prevalent in the industry. One is called the debt stacking method. Debt stacking method, you hear this time and time again. The debt stacking method says, if you take all of your credit cards, you put them on a spreadsheet, something similar to this, and you list those credit cards in order of highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. You ignore the outstanding balances, you ignore the utilization, you just list them in according to the interest rate, the highest interest rate down to the lowest interest rate, and you start paying them all together. So what you would do is, let's say I've given you an example of 4 credit cards, 2 Credit One cards, an Apple card, and a Navy Federal card. Now, the Credit One card has a balance limit of $1,000, an old balance of $941, meaning the credit utilization is 94%. It has an interest rate of 26.15%. This next Credit One, limit $1,250, it has an outstanding balance of $649. It has a much lower credit utilization because that's 52%. $649 is 52% of $1,250, but it has a lower interest rate. So what in the debt stacking method you're going to do is you're going to take as much money. Let's say you have $500 to spend on your credit this month. You're going to take the bulk of that $500. Let's say you're going to take $350, and you're going to pay on this balance because the interest rate is high. So you're going to pay on that balance. You're going to take the other $150 and just pay the minimums, $50 here, $50 here, $50 here. Once you pay this Credit One card down to 3.9%, remember that, don't pay it all, down to 3.9%, then you're going to start paying this Credit One, provided you haven't paid it already, okay? You're going to start paying this Credit One, get it down to 3.9%, and then you roll that $500 to the next one and the next one until you've gotten them all down to 3.9%. That's called the debt stacking method. Simply put, paying the cards with the highest interest rate, putting the most money towards the cards with the highest interest rate first, because that's going to cost you the most money over time. All right. Next method is called the snowball method. I like this method. This method says, simply put, you've got a Credit One card, the limit is $1,250. You can see that these switch places now. Credit One card with the limit of $1,250, the balance of $649 with a utilization of 52%, has an interest rate of 22.15%, but it has the lowest outstanding balance of all 4 cards. So simply put, you're just paying off, or you're putting the most money towards the cards with the lowest balance. Again, that $500 that you have budgeted, you put $350 towards this balance, 50, 50, and 50. Once you pay this off, you put the next amount towards this balance, towards this balance, towards this balance, until you pay them down to 3.9%. This is one of my favorite methods because it allows you to get small wins that motivate you into the next, paying the next credit card off, or paying it down to 3.9%. So I like that. We've come up, yes.
So is there an advantage of to use this method versus the other method? Which one is more advantageous to do?
Neither one of them is more advantageous, dependent upon your relationship to money. Some people need wins. So here's what happens in credit utilization. Again, you're living off of credit. It gets you frustrated, discouraged. People stop paying their bills because they can't see an end in sight. Go back to the other debt stacking method. So the debt stacking method, you see that you got to pay $941. Well, with your budget of $500 and you're putting $350 towards the top, the one that's on the top line, it's going to take you about 3 months, a little short of 3 months to get this paid off. Whereas go to the snowball method, it's going to take you 2 months to get this paid off, right? A little less than 2 months, right? So the advantage of the debt stacking method is you're going to spend less on the interest. The advantage of the snowball method is you will be more motivated to continue to pay down the debts, right? So it just depends on you. If you don't need the motivation, use the debt stacking method. You don't need the motivation. You don't even have this issue. So, but if you did, you don't need the motivation, so use the debt stacking method. I need this motivation. So I actually use a different method called the Premisien method. Where did I get the name Premisien? That's a great question. So take me to the Premisien method is much like the snowball method, except for we use the utilization percentages to determine what we pay. So as you go to the debt stacking first, go back 2 slides. All right, so as you saw, credit 1 was on the top line for this. Next one, snowball. The other credit 1 was on top for the snowball method. Apple is on top for the Premisien method. And the Premisien method says, look at your utilization percentage. What was the best practices credit utilization?
With the 3.9?
No, the best practices, not the most. 25%. 25%. So we put these in order of the closest to 25% utilization, because that's where you're going to get your score to go up, right? You don't have to pay the entire amount. So this is how we use our budget. This is how we use our budget and our motivation together. We say, even though Apple has the highest, one of the highest outstanding balances, right? It has the second highest outstanding balance. However, we're only at 27% utilization, which means we only have to pay $75 to get down to 25%. Once we get down to that 25%, our score is going to go up. So we pay this $75. Now we have a budget of $500, right? So we're going to pay $75. Boom, get that out the way. Now we're going to take the other $425, and we're going to put. We have $350 to put here, so I would put $250 on this one. And then I would put the rest, 100 and 100 on these two. Once I get this knocked out, now I take care of those two, and we're getting the motivation to keep going, plus we're getting our credit score to go up. And again, it's double motivation, right? Because as you do this, you are watching your balances go down and your credit utilization go up. Called the Premisien method.
I like it.
Not copywritten, no intellectual property rights on it yet. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. All right. So here we go. That's credit utilization. Obviously, if you need more assistance, if you want to contact us, our contact information, we are Premisien Credit Counseling, we're at 3002 Cecil B. Moore Avenue. I finally got to use that 1,000 in there. 3002 Cecil B. Moore Avenue, we're in Philadelphia, 19121. You can call us at 215-904-8690. Reach us on the web at premisien.com. And of course, you can email us at info@premisien.com. And with that said, I'd like to bring up my real estate guru, Abby Bridgeford from Genuine Property Solutions Real Estate.
Thank
Can you put that on there while I change it?
Hello, everyone. Hello. Very tough act to follow.
Oh, stop.
Actually, today, Kevin and I was putting the schedule together and then thought about how what we do pair with one another. And so when you mentioned utilization, I was thinking like real estate, how real estate utilization. Then I thought about the word utilization itself. That's perfect, because that's what real estate agents are. We're people that you utilize our professionalism to help you to do and to accomplish what it is. So we're going to talk about the word utilization today as it respects to estate. So, well, as we wait for our slides, I will tell you a story because I am still. 30 years ago, I was a person looking for to buy a house, and what I wanted to do was go into a home, find a house of my dreams, and say, you know what, I did it. Someone says, well, you should get a real estate agent. And I said, okay, well, how? Okay, someone just came and referred to us. So we went to see the real estate agent. The agent showed us the homes, and we saw about maybe 15 houses. Didn't find one. The one house we went to, needless to say, love it. Metal cabinets, yellow floors. It was hideous, but I loved it. Loved it. And then the agent that showed us the house told us that house is going. It's okay. Well, 3 months later, the agent called us and said, hey, listen, are you still interested in the house? He says, is it still available? They said, yes, it's still available. So then, I said, well, yeah, still interested in the house then. Guess what? Bought the house. Still in the house today. You might say, well, where are you going with this story? Where are you going? Okay. Well, let's put it this way. The termite damage that was in the house, if you were to equate it to a dollar amount, it came to about close to $10,000 to $15,000 worth of damage. If you think about all the repairs that could have been found, probably another $15,000 to $20,000 because of not having. Which brings us to what we're going to be discussing today. How to choose a real estate agent. Because have you ever heard the expression, that's my realtor, he's my realtor, she's my realtor? Really? Okay. I want to quiz you a little bit. We're going to skip a couple of slides. Just wanted to, for those of you who may not know who I am a real estate broker. We'll get into all of the credentials because today the most important thing is for you to know is that I have been doing real estate for time. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about what is real estate agent and why you would need one. What's the difference between a real estate agent and a realtor? Someone says, that's my realtor, that's my real estate agent. What's the difference? Is there? And we're also going to discuss what's the process to hire an agent. Now, all the story that I just gave you at the onset kind of put all of this into perspective a little bit because I believe that what I experienced is something that many of you have experienced as well. So when we look at what is a real estate agent and why you need one, you need to focus on the word agent. Because I think that that word in general, ticket agent, every time you turn around, it's an agent, it's some type of agent. Well, understanding what the word agent really means is going to be very important to you. So, a real estate agent handles a lot of different things. So, you know that they help you get qualified, they help you with your financing, your as Kevin mentioned, help you to utilize your credit and to find the best way to get your credit to where it needs to be so that you can qualify for finance. Real estate agents will also help you with contracts, which, as you know, there's people who are paid a lot of money to look and read and evaluate contracts. They help with negotiations, conveyancing. In a transaction, we can talk to well over 10 to 15 different people within one transaction before we even get started. Sorry, but a little too. We can also assist with closing, and I'm not even touching the surface for the real estate agent. We also, this part about analyzing the market conditions is important because you hear the terms, the market, what's the market? The market up, the market down, the market stable, the market crashing, the market, you hear those terminology, but what is it exactly as a real estate agent doing to make certain that you position yourself to be in the market where you can sell and or buy real estate? So a real estate agent is doing a lot, right? But this here, one thing that is very essential is all real estate agents owe consumers the duty to exercise reasonable professional skill and deal honestly and in good faith. I think everybody knows the expression, do unto others as you feel like done to you. So when you look at the word real estate agent, the word agent means fiduciary. It means it's an obligation that we as professionals have so that you can trust us. There's only two reasons. There's two reasons people do business with you. They have to one, like you, and they have to trust you. If they don't trust you, they won't like you. Okay? So with the real estate agent, I have a little eyeballs here because if you look around, everybody wants to be a real estate agent. Everybody. But you know what? Our little happy faces here have some beautiful eyes. We have a seller's agent. People know who work with sellers. We have buyer's agents, who works with buyers. We have dual agent, an agent who works with both. We have designated agent, which means broker will select one person just to work with that person, especially when the brokerage is a very large broker. But you notice there's no eyes. You do see something different. Why is that? Well, a transaction licensee is a licensed real estate agent, but there's no fiduciary responsibility, none whatsoever. There's no need to be a really trust that person. What that means is, Kevin says, I saw a house, I like it, I want this house, Abby. I don't want to hire you as my agent. I just need the paperwork. You heard people say that? I just need the paperwork. Can you just get me some paperwork? I don't know where to go, or what to do, what to fill out. Kevin, give me a few hours, I'll type up some paperwork for you, give you the paperwork, and then that person takes the paperwork. There's no obligation on the licensee for anything that they've done, even on that paperwork, because you did not get any representation. You want all eyes to be on everything that you do when it comes to representation and having an agent. Buying a house by far will be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, investment that you will ever make in your life, right? So getting a licensed professional to fulfill one of these tasks will be a very good investment for you and ultimately save you a lot of money. So a transaction licensee, even though it is a real estate agent, licensed person that can't do that, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best fit for you. So make sure you keep your eyes open. So we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to say, let's see if we can discuss in a little bit more detail. Here. to know what the difference between a real estate agent and a realtor. And I say the difference because, a real estate agent and a realtor are used, those words are used so interchangeably that I think in general, in the world in general, people think it's the same. So Amber wants to buy a house and she comes to my office and I go out, and let's say you and I showed you 5 houses, right? Showed you 5 houses and you put an offer in on the house and your offer is accepted. Woo-hoo. Can you say that I am your realtor? No? Yes? Yes? No?
No,
Okay, I'm just asking, I want to hear. No,
no,
okay, you're right. I'm not your realtor.
I know.
I'm not your real estate agent either. Did you know that? I just showed you the opposite. That's true. But when we look at the difference between a real estate agent, we are licensed by the state to perform business duties for the state to sell real estate. We all have a license, which we keep in our wallets, we're supposed to anyway. And we hang it in our office, and the state says you are licensed, which means that 60 hours of requirements, we have to do what's called real estate fundamentals, and we also have to do real estate practice. When we do real estate fundamentals and practice, take a test, pass that test. Once you pass that test, go to a broker's office. A broker then selects, you talk with the broker to decide which broker you want to work with, and then that real estate agent then duties as a licensee for the state. A realtor is a designation. Let me say that again, please. A realtor is a designation, which means real estate agent, all of us are real estate agents. Anyone who's licensed to conduct business and sell real estate in the state, we are all real estate agents. However, all of us are not realtors. Realtors have to be associated with an association. A realtor, you have to be a member of the National Association of Realtors, your state association of realtors, and a local association. These associations alone obligates us as realtors to be under good ethics that normal real estate agents are not under. So let me put it to you this way. There are, they consider generic brand medications and pain brand. Why is that? Paying more for the name brand, right? People have the mindset that the name brand must be better. In some cases, you'll find that the generic brand is just as good as the name brand. But there is a difference. There is a difference when you go to an association or business who not only just do the bare minimum, that's having a license to be with the state, but they're constantly being educated, provided more additional information to allow us as real estate agents to perform at our highest levels as real estate professionals. So the code of ethics that we have to aspire by, National Association, Pennsylvania, and our local associations of realtors, means that there's things that we just can't do that maybe a general real estate agent. So you might say, well, give me an example, Abby. What are you talking about? Okay, give me an example. So, state agent. All of us, as we're going to discuss a little further in our documents, all of us have to aspire, like I mentioned a couple slides back, we have to do things that we gotta be honest. There's all, those are basic things that we do. But as our code of ethics, we have codes within codes. What that means is how we treat each other as real estate professionals. We can have arbitrations, we can have mediations, We can do all these things before we even go to court. It's not to scare us, it's not to make us as real estate agents work any differently, because the point is, we still should want to treat people the way we want to be treated. But these code of ethics that we have allows us to align our actions in a manner that we can ensure that we're doing what's best of it. We have to make certain as realtors, see, as realtor, I'm a realtor. As realtor, we have to make certain that we are utilizing all the benefits that our associations offer. And Kevin, you have a question?
So you, in order to sell real estate, you have to be a real estate agent, but you choose to be a realtor.
Yeah.
You don't have to go through the rigor of.
Very nice. So real estate agent, it's just no way to legally, let me put that word in there, legally sell real estate without being licensed. I say that because unfortunately, we have a good amount of people who have disciplinary action. And the real estate commission posts those so that people can see in general. So we'll discuss a little later about that, but people do try to sell real estate without having a license. And some people are successful in doing that. There are permissions that, there are some things that you're allowed versus if you have your own, just sell your own without a license. State not required, you have to be licensed to sell your home. But to sell another home, you have to be licensed.
So there are cash. There are wholesalers
There are wholesalers, yeah.
that are
There are.
selling
Yeah.
your house. You sell your house to them and they're selling it to somebody else.
Well, let's put it this way, wholesalers is something that, in the state, first of all, wholesaling is a state by state, requirements, they're different. So, here in the state of Pennsylvania, there is a provision that we have a wholesalers, there's certain criteria, plus the criteria vary, and I am not an advocate of wholesaler, so therefore in this discussion, I will not be going into my detail about that. However, what I will comment, and answer the question, is that wholesalers are given certain requirements now in the state that they can adhere to. However, we as realtors, we may be a little bit discriminatory in our working with them. Because for me personally, I feel it's a conflict of interest. There may be an arrangement or agreement that can be made with a wholesaler that's of at benefit of the client. Remember, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients, to the seller and to the buyer. Whoever we represent, or even both, we have to do this in their best interest. Unfortunately, wholesalers are known for, I found you somebody, so now give me the X amount of dollars to find you. Well, the question, the conflict that I have with that is finding someone that I could have found someone too, and put that money in my seller or my buyer's pocket. So therefore, that's where the conflict comes in, because wholesaling is really, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, and I am entitled to my own opinion. I feel that it's not fair for someone like myself to spend, in my case as a broker, 240 additional hours as a broker, education, in addition to the 60 I had to do as an agent, and someone else gets to come and say, oh, I don't see that, I don't see where it correlates. So as with this slide here, you'll see CRS, PSA, URI, and University. All of those are designations that I currently have. And there's so much more. There's EPRO, CRS, you know, there's so many, well, I don't have CRS. There's EPRO, CCIM. There's just so many designations that real estate agents get, because as we continue to go to school, as we continue to learn, we're constantly trying to find ways to know how to best serve our. So a real estate agent, if they're not a member of any association, they are not a realtor. So when people say, my realtor, wait. You mean your real estate agent? Is your real estate agent a member of an association? they're not, then they're not a realtor, they are.
Are they required to disclose if they are not?
Put it this way, if you are not a realtor, if you are not, you cannot call yourself.
Good.
So consider a violation to call yourself or advertise yourself as a realtor if you are not a member of an association.
Right, like,
If
I don't
you
play basketball, so I can't call myself a basketball. I'd like to.
like to, right? So, you want to get a real estate agent? Okay, it's important to have one, especially as we mentioned, it is one of the expenses that you ever made. And because of things like what happened to myself personally, without having one, cost me a lot of money that I could have avoided. So we're going to talk about the process. I say process because it is a process. It really is, but it's important. We'll see why. So Realtor.com is probably, and I would say, one of the most reliable sources that you can get for a realtor. Now, remember, I am speaking from a realtor perspective, not a real estate agent. I want to encourage you to get a realtor. I want to encourage you to get someone who's very vested in this business, who's a member of an association, who has additional code of ethics that they have to aspire by. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not saying that real estate agents are not nice people. I'm just saying I would want you, if you're going to get into this industry or you want to buy a home or sell a home, go to someone who is desirous of doing really well in this industry. And so Realtor.com is a very, very, that website, you can put your zip code, address, location, you know where you want to move to. You can find yourself a real estate professional, realtor for that site. Remember, we all talk about utilization. We want to utilize whatever resources that we have so that we can make an educated decision. So, interview. It's really nothing wrong with you saying, can I talk to you for a minute? Tell me, how many houses have you sold? What is your approach when it comes to this problem or that problem? Talk with the real estate agent or realtor, because you want to get a feel. Remember, you're going to do business with them for two reasons. You gotta like them and you gotta trust them. If you don't trust them, you're not gonna like them. So, and I'll give you an example. I will give you a sample so I can keep you thinking. I like to. I have a client that I sold. I went to put her house in the market, and she said, I talked to another real estate agent for you. So, this is a surprise to me. Great, I'm glad. What was so tell me how things work out. She says, oh, you're not gonna believe it. The woman came in the house, she walked with them around my house. Well, I mean, I guess we can probably try to sell it for whatever. And her attitude was so, like,
Lackluster.
the seller, she was like, appalled. She was like, I'm just gonna bring the kitchen in here, I just painted it in. Her house is very nice, but the attitude about the real estate agent, let's say it was the agent, I don't know if she's a realtor. The attitude that she had was so lackluster. They added that to her name, or lackluster. So I ended up getting that listed because when I walked in the house, I was, oh my goodness, we're gonna do a lot with this. Oh my goodness, I could see this selling and that selling. She was like, listen, where do I sign? So interviewing the real estate agent is really, really important because if the agent don't feel your project and they're not interested in what you have in mind and what your goals are, very likely the agent's it's not going to be a good working relationship. Check the reviews and the references. I'm telling you, some reviews, okay, I have to admit, some reviews might not be totally honest. Maybe this person had a bad situation. It's not all reviews use are very valuable. There may be some doubts, but just check into it. Look into finding out whatever information you can find. Now, I will tell you, if you go on the Real Estate Commission's website, you go to Pennsylvania State Real Estate Commission's website, and you put a person's name in the bar and you go research them, you will be able to get information about that. So, that's the slide. My phone is doing this. The buyer listing contract and consumer notice. These two are so essential. This is what solidifies our fiduciary or agent relationship. So from 1 to 4, you're taking whatever resources you can utilize and say, hey, let me see how can I position myself because this undertaking I'm about to go through is really important. And I gotta make sure I have the right person on my team. But here, when you sit down and you go over the consumer notice and the buyer's or listing contract, now you pretty much selected who it is you're gonna work. Now you want to say, okay, let's get started. Let's get our process started. So when you look at this document here, the buyer's agency contract, which we all have one in our folders. These contracts, just remember something. They're designed to be written in a manner that makes it very easy for both parties to adhere to. It's not written where we as the real estate agent is in our favor and you're at a disadvantage. You as the consumer, also client, you become a client once you sign. The consumer first, client once it's signed. You can set the terms of your agreement. So we're not saying that we have to keep working together for another year. Truth be told, I don't want to work with you a whole year. That doesn't give me any motivation to help you find a house. If I, as a real estate professional, know I have a whole year to work with you to buy a house, then am I going to be quick about finding you a house? No. So I make my contracts 3 months. Okay, that's what I do with my buyer agency contract. And these contracts are designed so that you can set the terms. The most major parts of the contracts, who the parties are, how long you're going to be working together, when you start, when you end, and let you know other details such as we don't discriminate, because real estate agents, believe it or not, have been asked to discriminate. We'll talk about that a little later. So, listing agency, and everyone knows this buzz. To sell by owners. We love our business, but there comes a time when a person just needs to hire a real estate professional to sell their house. Now, if you go back to the beginning, which I'm not going to go all the way back, but we talk about all the things real estate agents do. You realize that the person, okay, what's the number one reason? What is the number one reason people want to sell their houses? Yes.
People might think they might get a better offer.
They might think they get a better offer. That's not the number one reason.
Save money.
Save money. Why do you think people think that they could save money? Do you think real estate agents like myself get paid a lot? You think that, don't you?
No.
I think you get paid a lot, don't you?
No.
You know what, people think that you use 5%, 6%, 3% of whatever. Let's just take $100,000. Okay. Let's say we charge 6%. Let's pick that number because everyone seems to feel that they know that number for whatever reason. Okay, $6,000. Oh my gosh. I'm paying this real estate office $6,000 to sell my house. Oh my gosh. She just called me the other day. What she said?
Come sell mine.
She said, I sold my house. Why are you calling me? She said, well, the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. I'm like, why are you calling me? Well, Capital was, she's selling herself, didn't want to pay a commission, right? The person offered her cash, let's just say $100,000. The same house that I probably would have sold for $150,000. But she didn't pay a commission. But she was out $50,000. Family came to her after it all was said and done and said, well, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call the agent? Why did you do that? I didn't want to pay a commission. But you let $50,000 fly out the window. Now, going back to an example that I was about to use, even at 6%, let's use that $100,000 number. If you were to take let's do it. Take out the calculators for a minute, just to appease me for a second. And let's take $6,000, right? And let's just say, that it took from December to February. So let's just say 60 days. It took 60 days to sell your house. Okay. And let's just say 60 days, let's say $10 an hour for maybe 20 hours. Can someone do that math for me? Say again?
You said 20 hours.
20 hours of work.
10 hours, $10 per hour,
Yeah, 10 hours.
$200.
$200, right? Okay, times 60 days.
It's gonna be 1,200. Well, I'm sorry, $12,000.
$12,000. But but how much was we supposed to be getting paid? Selling out?
6,000.
How much?
6,000.
6,000. So I'm at a deficit, right?
Mhm.
And I base that on $10 an hour. I'm at a deficit because I can't count how many hours I spend on the telephone. I can't tell how many times I've been in and out your house, up and down your steps, in and out your house, up and down your steps, showing buyers in your house. I can't tell you how many hours I spent talking to credit counseling, talking to the mortgage company, talking to the insurance company, talking to whoever. I can't tell you about all the times that we spent trying to get everything together so that you can get this house. So you as a FISBO want to save commission when in essence you're really not saving, and we are really not making the kind of money that you might think that we are for the work that we do. So what we do is labor of love. We work because we genuinely want to help people. Kevin would attest to this. Helping people with their credit, when people buy or sell a house, is a lot of work. You know, we're in the service industry. We don't have a product per se that you can just come to store from. We actually have to work weeks, days, and months, and sometimes years in the short term before we see any type of financial benefit. So, just want you to know, FISBOs, get yourself a licensed real estate agent and sell your houses. Any questions so far? Any questions for our virtual audience? Okay. Buyers and listing contracts have a lot of very similar elements. So when you look on a buyer's and listing contract, there's some paragraphs that are going to be on both contracts. So one thing is the entire contract, no matter where it is, that contract stays with that real estate office, that brokerage. So you sign a contract with our office, it stays with me. If I go to another office, it follows me to the other office. We all have to do confidentiality. We cannot tell your business. If you're going to hire a real estate agent, we become your licensee, we have to keep your information confidential. You're going through a divorce, we have to keep information confidential. So someone comes through the house, so why is it so selling? Why is that a nice house? They're interested in selling the house. We can't tell them because they. And if you're representing the buyer, and the seller said, well, tell me a little bit about these buyers. Are they married? They're interested in buying a house. Can't tell anybody any information aside from what is important for the seller or the buyer to know as it relates to buying. And you said no discrimination. I'm going to tell you, race, color, religious, creed, sex, disability, familial status, age, national origin, use of handling, training of a sport, guide, dog, animal, anything. We cannot discriminate when it comes to representation. Can't say, I don't want to represent such and such a people. Any of these statuses, because as a realtor, we abide by these methods. So if someone says, don't bring such and such a color, green people into my house. I don't want green people in my house. We have to let the client know, cannot, under any circumstance. Once you sign an agreement, buyer's agency, or a listing contract, that's when we officially are represented. Until then, do not tell us any information about yourself personally that you wouldn't want me to know otherwise. Because this right here, when you sign it, now I'm gonna ask you some more details about your situation that you can share with me, that, because now we have that in writing. So a buyer's contract, a listing contract, those contracts are essential in establishing a fiduciary responsibility. And when those contract ends, which will be the date on the contract, or when we sell, or when we buy a home, that's when the contract ends, then my obligations to you have been met. So, look at our resources, talk about the word utilization. Go to the Association of Realtors, go to our office, come to our office, and we talked to Kevin earlier about utilization, this credit. Just go and find out some very valuable resources that you can use so that you can make an educated and wise decision when it comes to choosing a real estate. And with that said, I'd like to thank you all for attending. It's very important to know that we hold, as Kevin mentioned earlier, we do events second Friday of every month. Next upcoming event will be March 10th. And we're going to discuss real estate terminology, some words that you hear that's thrown around in the market, what they're talking about. We're also going to talk about credit age. I think credit age is real important because, it goes up and down a lot, especially if it goes, stay tuned for that. So Kevin and I would like to thank all of you. Kevin, for providing our food. I really appreciate so much the opportunity to have this hour and a half with you all.
And you have been a wealth of knowledge. Thank you guys for participating and continuing to support. As Abby said, if you need to get in contact with us, it's Premisien and Genuine Property Solutions. Please reach out to us on every social media platform. Obviously, you guys are seeing us on YouTube, so you can catch us there. We're on Instagram with the same names.
Yeah.
We're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're on every social media platform, and you can see the upcoming events. So stay tuned. Love to see you live. If you can't see you live, love to see you virtually. And in the future, we may do some things that are interactive. So stay tuned for that.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye.